guys, and welcome to a quick and simple book review about Kate Quinn's The Rose Code. So this one I was excited to do because I believe The Alice Network was in my top favorites the year 2019. In 2020, The Huntress was in my top favorites. And in 2021, we'll see if The Rose Code makes it, but I really did enjoy it. So let's get started into this. This book is another historical read by Kate Quinn. And she's really good at writing stories that you haven't necessarily read a whole bunch before about World War II, about strong female leads. That's where her main stories go. There are sometimes the endings aren't as quite believable. All three of her endings felt like that to me. But if you're on her train and you love her writing already, I think you're going to love this one as well. So The Rose Code is about three women who work breaking codes. They all work in this place that did really exist. And translating German, trying to break Japanese, Russian, everything. And so they're code breaking spy network. There are some huge players outside of this realm of these three women. So I'm going to tell you about the three women real quick, and I'll tell you about some big players that they threw in this book. So the three players are Ulsa, and she is a socialite who gets thrown in this industry. She's really brilliant and smart. And she is just in a different world than the other next two women. The next woman is trying to provide for her family by any means necessary. Her mom and her sister. And she doesn't have money for anything. And she's really intelligent as well, Mab. And then the next girl, his name is Beth. You think she's unintelligent, the way they describe her, and the way that I thought they described her was almost that she was on the spectrum before. Like, people thought she was dumb and couldn't do certain things, and her mom is abusive and mean, but she turns out to be highly intelligent as well. She actually turns out to be a code breaker, where the other girls are more on the translating end and on different aspects. They're all good at their very unique positions in the job. In the very, very beginning, on the description of the back cover, so I'm not giving anything away, one of the girls ends up in a mental asylum. So the whole book, you're like, who turned her in? What happened? How did she get there? Did something freak accident? Did she fall apart from this? Because this book is very good at delving down into all the mental issues these girls go through with having such secrecy at such a high level, and how much that can take a toll on your brain when you see, like, you have access to saving people, but you can't save certain people because you're trying to trick, like, the Germans into doing something else. And so you have to let some people die. It's got to be toll breaking on your mind, and just, like, completely awful and horrible. So there's a lot of other characters that come into this book that are quite famous. I think Kate Middleton's mother makes an entrance in this book. Alan Turing, that's what his name was, makes an interest in this book. And that was the one player I was like, why? I feel like he's like a bigger person. Like they should have wrote more about him. I don't know. I felt like he was unnecessarily shoved in this book. We know he was into code breaking, especially after that really good movie. And love the Alan Turing story, but I felt like he was just shoved in this book. I wasn't understanding why. Prince Philip plays a huge character in this book, and the whole time, as I said, Ulsa was a socialite before, and she's in a huge relationship with him, and you're like, how does he end up with the queen? Because everybody in the world knows that Prince Philip ends up with the queen and not some socialite that he's in love with at the beginning of the war. So you want to know what's going on with that as well. And yeah, so that's where the story starts. You meet all these players, you meet the relationships and what's going on in their life, and they all start working at this place, and one of them has been betrayed in the end. And that's very little. It goes very chronological. You just see little flashbacks of her, like, trying to avoid getting, not flash forwards, of her trying to avoid getting pills. And I don't want to give anything away, but the ending, once again, was like, but I love the storyline. I gave this a 4.5 out of 5 stars. It wasn't my favorite by her, but I really enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun with it. It was interesting once again. Had some really good female leads once again. I really loved them all. I loved Mab's story as far as romance goes the best. Mab's story with Francis. And it was really, really good and heart-wrenching and awful. Beth's story, I thought it would come in a more key player because she was different. And she was the code breaker. And I thought at one point they would all three work together. I was waiting for that point in the book, and that never happened. So I was like, ugh. And then I did like that a large portion of the end was based after the war. Like, what happened to these women? Where did they go? How'd they end up here? How do they solve this mystery? I loved that part because you really do want to know what happens to these people that have these jobs and then turn into like housewives. Like, it's crazy to me that somebody can transition like that. Which one of them does? You get to find out what happened between her and Prince Philip, which is satisfying to know. Because that is also, when you flash forward to like the mental facility, you hear about, like, the countdown you're hearing about is up to the royal wedding of Prince Philip and Queen Elizabeth. So you know that's also going to happen in the end as well. And a thing about this book, other than the little discrepancies I told you, I mean, her endings are never quite everything to me. I think it's more of the journey of the story, and as well as I thought they would all three work together at some point and do like a really cool code break, but they don't. You just hear about their little jobs. So that was a little bit of a letdown. And then the other thing was they had a book club in the book, and I think some people probably really enjoyed it. And it was like the separate storyline in the book, and I'm like, I don't get the point of this. I mean, you get the point of it when it ties in the ending, but I really didn't get the point of them book clubbing, and I would kind of fade off into the distance when I was reading that part. Even though I read this book in 2 days, I was really intrigued. I like flipped through it and read it really, really fast. It's just, and that's impressive because it's like, gosh, it's so long. It's a 600-page book. But that point of it, I was like, yeah, she could have left this out. But that is my simple and quick book review about The Road Code. Loved it. Highly recommend. If you're into World War II women's fiction, or women's fiction, historical women's fiction, I should say, or World War II fiction, you would enjoy this. Definitely another different spin from her. And I think my number one still is The Huntress by her. But I really enjoyed this one as well. And I will see you guys in the next one. See you guys next time. Bye.